Welcome to this quiet place, this gentle space we've set aside together, where the world outside can soften and blur, where the demands of the day can finally release their hold on your shoulders, your mind, your breath. There's nothing you need to do here, nothing you need to remember or accomplish. You can simply let yourself settle into this moment, into the sound of these words, into the slow unfolding of stories that have been written across billions of years. Stories that continue in every cell of your body, in every breath you take, in the quiet rhythm of your heartbeat as it gradually slows. Tonight, we're going to drift together through the long, patient story of life on Earth, not as a lesson or a lecture, but as a kind of meditation, a gentle wandering through time and possibility. Evolution is often presented as a drama, full of struggle and competition, survival and extinction, but there's another way to see it, a softer lens through which to view these ancient patterns. When we step back far enough, when we allow ourselves to see the whole sweep of deep time, evolution reveals itself as something remarkably calm, something almost like a very slow dance, a conversation between living things and their world that unfolds over millions of years, never rushing, never forcing, just gradually finding its way forward through the endless generations. Let yourself breathe easily now. Let your body find whatever position feels most comfortable, most natural. There's no urgency here, no timeline we need to follow. We have all the time that exists because in a way, when we talk about evolution, we're talking about time itself becoming visible, time made manifest in the shapes of leaves and the colors of beetles and the way a whale's flipper contains the same bones as your hand, just rearranged, just adapted to a different kind of movement through a different kind of space. The story begins, as all stories must, in water. Not the water of oceans as we know them now, vast and complex and filled with life, but something simpler, something more fundamental. Imagine, if you can, a world without eyes to see it, without minds to wonder at it, a world of warm, shallow seas and volcanic shores, of chemicals dissolved in water, molecules drifting and combining and breaking apart in patterns that had no meaning, no purpose, no direction. And yet, somehow, in ways we're still piecing together, in ways that remain beautifully mysterious, some of those molecular patterns began to repeat themselves, began to make copies, imperfect copies that could themselves make more copies. This is where life begins, in this simple, almost inevitable chemistry, in the way that certain molecules, given the right conditions, given enough time, begin to preserve themselves, to persist, to continue. There's something deeply peaceful about this beginning, about the fact that life didn't burst into existence fully formed, didn't announce itself with any kind of fanfare. It simply emerged gradually, patiently, from the background noise of chemical reactions, a pattern that learned to maintain itself against the general drift toward disorder. For billions of years, life remained microscopic, remained simple, single cells floating in ancient seas, dividing and diversifying in ways so slow, so gradual, that if you could have watched any particular million-year period, you might not have noticed any change at all. But the changes were there, accumulating grain by grain, like sediment settling at the bottom of a quiet lake. Some cells learned to harness the energy of sunlight, transforming the very air of the planet, slowly filling it with oxygen that would one day make possible all the breathing creatures to come. Some cells learned to live inside other cells, forming partnerships that became permanent, became essential, became the foundation for all complex life. There's a beautiful kind of cooperation at the heart of your own cells, in the mitochondria that power every movement you make, every thought you think. These tiny structures inside your cells were once independent organisms, bacteria that found their way inside other cells billions of years ago and never left, becoming so integrated, so essential that now neither can live without the other. Your cells are not solitary things, but communities, ecosystems in miniature, carrying on partnerships that began when Earth itself was young. Let this idea settle over you gently. The realization that you are not one thing but many things, that your body is a vast collaboration of parts that came together across evolutionary time, each with its own history, its own long journey to this moment. Even your DNA, coiled in the nucleus of every cell, is full of sequences that came from viruses, ancient infections that became permanent residents in the genome, now passed down from parent to child as surely as the color of eyes or the shape of hands. You are a walking museum of evolutionary history, a living archive of every challenge your ancestors faced, every solution they found, every adaptation that allowed them to survive long enough to become part of the chain that leads to you. As those billions of years of single-celled life continued, as the oxygen built up in the atmosphere, as the continents drifted and the climate shifted through cycles we can barely imagine, life remained patient, remained mostly invisible to any hypothetical observer. But complexity was building, slowly, incrementally, in the way that cells organized themselves, in the way they coordinated their behavior, in the first tentative experiments with multicellularity, with being not just one cell but many cells working together as a single organism. Around 600 million years ago, give or take a few tens of millions of years, something shifted. Life, which had been mostly microscopic, mostly soft-bodied, mostly invisible in the fossil record, began to experiment with larger forms, with harder parts, with bodies that could leave impressions in the ancient mud. This wasn't a sudden explosion, but rather a slow blossoming, a gradual exploration of the possibilities inherent in having a body, in being large enough to see, complex enough to move in coordinated ways through the water. The first animals were strange beyond our imagining, shapes that don't quite fit into any category we recognize today, soft quilted forms lying on the seafloor, radial creatures with no front or back, no clear relationship to anything alive now. They lived in a world that was utterly silent, utterly peaceful in ways we can barely conceive. A world where nothing hunted, nothing fled, where life simply existed, growing and reproducing in the slow currents of warm Precambrian seas. But even this peaceful garden couldn't last forever, because evolution doesn't move toward any goal, doesn't have any plan, but simply responds to conditions, to opportunities, to the endless small variations that arise in every generation. Some organisms, through the slow accumulation of random changes, developed the ability to move more quickly, more purposefully. Some developed harder parts, structures that could grasp or scrape or protect. And once some organisms could hunt, could eat other organisms, the whole rhythm of life began to change. Not suddenly, but over millions of years, arms races playing out in slow motion across geological time. Yet even in this new world of predator and prey, there's a strange kind of balance, a rhythm that establishes itself. Evolution doesn't favor the strongest or the most aggressive in any simple way. It favors the good enough, the organisms that can survive long enough to reproduce, that can find their particular niche in the vast web of life. A predator that's too efficient, that hunts its prey to extinction, dooms itself. A defense that's too costly, that requires too much energy to maintain, becomes a burden rather than an advantage. What evolution finds again and again are compromises, trade-offs, solutions that work well enough in the context of a particular time and place. The ocean in those ancient eras was becoming a kind of laboratory, a space where different body plans were being tested, where the basic architecture of animal life was being slowly sketched out in flesh and bone and shell. Worms burrowed through the sediment, filtering nutrients from the mud, creating tunnels that would themselves become part of the fossil record, evidence of behavior preserved across hundreds of millions of years. Creatures with jointed legs scuttled across the seafloor, their bodies segmented, their eyes compound, seeing the world as a mosaic of images. Others grew shells, calcium carbonate structures that provided protection, that created homes, that could be sealed shut to wait out unfavorable conditions. There's something calming about the way these basic patterns, once established, persist. The fundamental body plan of an insect, with its 3-part body and 6 legs, was set down over 400 million years ago and has remained essentially unchanged since then, varied in countless ways but always recognizable, always working with the same basic blueprint. The same is true of vertebrates, of animals with backbones like us. Whether you're looking at a fish or a frog or a falcon or a fox, the underlying architecture is the same: 4 limbs or fins, a skull protecting a brain, a backbone supporting the body. Variations on a theme that first appeared in primitive fish swimming in Cambrian seas. This deep conservation of pattern, this reluctance of evolution to completely reinvent the wheel, means that when we look at other living things, we're looking at distant cousins, relatives separated by vast stretches of time but still sharing fundamental similarities. The proteins that allow your muscles to contract are essentially the same as those in a jellyfish, in a worm, in a bird. The genes that control the development of eyes, that tell cells where to form light-sensitive structures, are shared across an enormous range of animals, from insects to octopuses to humans. Life, having found solutions that work, tends to keep them, to build on them, to modify them for new purposes rather than starting fresh. Let your breathing deepen a little now. Let yourself feel the rise and fall of your chest, the movement of air in and out of your lungs that evolved from the swim bladders of ancient fish, organs that once controlled buoyancy, that allowed fish to rise or sink in the water column, gradually transformed over millions of years into structures that could extract oxygen from air, that could allow vertebrate life to move on to land. The transition from water to land, which happened multiple times in different lineages, unfolded over millions of years of incremental change. Fish living in shallow water, in environments that sometimes dried up or became depleted of oxygen, would have benefited from any ability to gulp air from the surface, to survive brief periods out of water. Those with slightly stronger fins could push themselves farther across mudflats to reach new pools. Those with slightly more robust skeletons could support their weight in air for slightly longer periods. Generation by generation, over time frames that make human history look like a single heartbeat, fins became limbs, scales became skin, fish became amphibians. And yet, even after making this monumental transition, after conquering land in a way that would reshape the entire surface of the planet, amphibians remain tied to water, needing it for reproduction, their eggs vulnerable to drying out, their skin requiring moisture. It would take another evolutionary innovation. The amniotic egg, a self-contained environment with its own water supply and protective membranes, to fully liberate vertebrate life from its aquatic origins. This egg, with its hard or leathery shell, its specialized membranes that manage gas exchange and waste storage, first appeared in reptiles over 300 million years ago and made possible the vast radiation of life that would eventually include dinosaurs and birds and mammals. These transitions, these major evolutionary innovations, didn't happen because life was striving towards some goal, trying to conquer new frontiers. They happened through the accumulation of small changes, each advantageous in its own immediate context, each solving some local problem, improving survival or reproduction just slightly, just enough to become more common in the next generation. Evolution is not a ladder climbing toward complexity, not a march of progress with humans at the pinnacle. It's more like a branching bush, growing in all directions, exploring countless possibilities, most of which lead to dead ends, extinction, the simple cessation of a lineage that ran its course and found no descendants. The vast majority of species that have ever existed are now extinct, their lineages ended, their particular solutions to the problems of existence proven inadequate in the face of changing conditions. And yet there's something almost restful about this fact, about the way evolution doesn't demand permanence, doesn't insist that any particular form continue forever. Species arise, persist for a time, and then fade away, making room for new forms, new experiments. The average lifespan of a species is measured in millions of years, a duration so long that the rise and fall of civilizations, the shaping and reshaping of human culture, happens in what amounts to an evolutionary instant. We are living in a moment, a brief window in deep time, surrounded by forms of life that are themselves temporary, that will eventually give rise to descendants different enough to be considered new species, or will simply end, their ecological roles filled by others. The birds you hear in the morning, the trees that shade your street, the insects that pollinate flowers, all of these are just passing through, just the current iteration of lineages that stretch back millions of years and may continue, changed and changing for millions more. In the Carboniferous period, roughly 300 million years ago, the world was covered in vast swamp forests, dense growths of primitive trees and giant ferns that would eventually become the coal we burn today, ancient sunlight stored in stone. The oxygen levels in the atmosphere were higher than they are now, and this allowed insects to grow to enormous sizes, dragonflies with wingspans as wide as a seagull's, millipedes as long as your arm. These creatures lived in a world of dense vegetation, of constant moisture, of warm climates that extended far toward the poles. They had no way of knowing that they were living in a particular moment, a specific set of conditions that would not last, that the climate would change, that continents would drift, that their gigantic forms would eventually become impossible as oxygen levels declined. This is the rhythm of life on Earth, periods of relative stability punctuated by changes, some gradual, some sudden in geological terms, though still slow by human standards. Ice ages come and go, advancing and retreating over tens of thousands of years, reshaping coastlines, altering climates, forcing species to migrate or adapt or disappear. Sea levels rise and fall by hundreds of feet, flooding vast areas of continents and then exposing them again, creating land bridges that allow species to spread to new territories, and then isolating populations as the waters return. And through all of this change, through all of these vast transformations of the planetary environment, life persists, not by resisting change, but by being inherently changeable, by existing in populations that always contain variation, individuals that differ slightly from one another in ways that might, under new conditions, prove advantageous. Every population of living things is like a library of possibilities, most of which will never be needed, but some of which might be exactly what allows the species to survive when the environment shifts, when the old ways of being are no longer adequate. Let yourself rest more deeply now. Let your muscles release whatever tension they've been holding. Let your jaw loosen, your shoulders drop, your breathing become easy and automatic. There's nothing you need to hold on to here, nothing you need to grasp or remember. These are just stories, patterns written in stone and bone and DNA, patterns that continue regardless of whether anyone is watching, whether anyone knows. In the Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs, the world was in many ways a warmer, wetter place than it is now. Forests grew at the poles, and vast inland seas divided continents into archipelagos. Dinosaurs, which began as relatively small creatures, no bigger than dogs, gradually diversified into an enormous range of forms, from the massive long-necked sauropods that fed on treetops, to the swift two-legged predators, to the armored plant-eaters with their clubs and spikes and elaborate defenses. But perhaps the most important thing about dinosaurs from our perspective, from the long view of evolution, is what they didn't do. Dinosaurs, despite their diversity and success, despite dominating terrestrial ecosystems for over 150 million years, never developed the kind of large-brained intelligence that would eventually appear in mammals, in primates, in us. They found other solutions, other ways of being successful. Some became enormous, too large for most predators to threaten. Some developed elaborate social behaviors, living in herds, nesting in colonies. Some took to the air, becoming birds, a transformation so complete that birds are now classified as a subgroup of dinosaurs, the only dinosaur lineage to survive the mass extinction that ended the Cretaceous period. That extinction, caused by a combination of factors including the impact of a massive asteroid in what is now Mexico, reshaped life on Earth in profound ways, but not by creating something entirely new, only by removing certain players from the stage and allowing others to expand into newly available ecological roles. Mammals, which had existed alongside dinosaurs for most of the Mesozoic era, had remained relatively small, mostly nocturnal, occupying niches that didn't bring them into direct competition with the dominant reptiles. But with the dinosaurs gone, with vast ecological spaces suddenly empty, mammals began to diversify, to explore new ways of being, new sizes and shapes and diets. This diversification happened relatively quickly in geological terms, over just a few million years, but it still represents countless generations. Countless individual lives lived and ended, each contributing in some small way to the larger pattern. Some mammals returned to the sea, their limbs gradually transforming into flippers, their bodies becoming streamlined, their nostrils migrating to the tops of their heads to become blowholes. These were the ancestors of whales and dolphins, creatures that now seem so perfectly adapted to aquatic life that it's hard to imagine them as having any connection to land. And yet their skeletons still contain the remnants of hip bones, vestiges of legs that their ancestors once walked on. Other mammals took to the air not by developing feathers like birds, but by stretching skin between elongated finger bones, creating the wings of bats. Still others grew large, developing the massive bodies of elephants or the long necks of giraffes, each finding a particular way of making a living in a particular environment. And some, a small branch on the vast tree of mammalian diversity, remained in the trees, developing grasping hands and forward-facing eyes. The better to judge distances when leaping from branch to branch, the better to catch insects and pluck fruit. These were the primates, our ancestors, though it would be tens of millions of years before anything resembling a human would appear. There's a beautiful contingency to all of this, a sense that none of it was inevitable, that if you could somehow rewind the tape of evolution and play it forward again, you would get a different result, different forms, different solutions to the same problems. The particular pathway that led to humans, to language and culture and technology, was just one possibility among countless others, shaped by specific environmental pressures, specific accidents of geography and climate and competition. We are not the goal of evolution, but simply one outcome, one experiment among millions. Consider for a moment the fact that for most of the history of mammals, for most of the Cenozoic era, the past 66 million years, our lineage was unremarkable. Just another group of small to medium-sized primates living in trees, eating fruit and insects, competing with countless other species for resources and space. The split between the lineage that would lead to humans and the lineage that would lead to chimpanzees happened only about 6 or 7 million years ago, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, and for most of the time since then, our ancestors were still very much ape-like, still spending much of their time in trees, still walking on all fours when on the ground. The transition to upright walking, to bipedalism, happened gradually, driven perhaps by changes in climate that reduced forest cover and expanded grasslands in Africa, making it advantageous to see over tall grass, to travel more efficiently across open ground, to free the hands for carrying food or young. Each of these advantages would have been slight, would have improved survival or reproduction by just a small margin. But over hundreds of thousands of years, over thousands of generations, the accumulated changes transformed the posture and anatomy of our ancestors in fundamental ways. Walking upright brought its own challenges, its own trade-offs. It made childbirth more difficult, as the pelvis had to remain narrow enough to allow efficient walking, while also being wide enough to allow the passage of increasingly large-brained infants. The solution evolution found was to have human babies born earlier in their development, more helpless and dependent than the young of most other mammals, requiring extended parental care. This extended childhood, this long period of dependency, may have contributed to the development of more complex social structures, stronger bonds between parents and offspring, more opportunities for learning and cultural transmission. As you lie here, as your body continues to relax, continues to release the accumulated tension of the day, you might notice the way your own skeleton supports you, the way your spine curves, the way your pelvis and legs are adapted for upright posture. Adaptations that came not all at once but degree by degree, modification by modification, across vast stretches of time. You are shaped by your evolutionary history in ways both obvious and subtle, in the structure of your bones and the wiring of your nervous system, and the chemistry of your metabolism. The enlargement of the human brain, which occurred over the past 2 million years or so, represents one of the most dramatic transformations in our lineage, yet it too happened gradually, through incremental increases in brain size and complexity across many species of early humans and their relatives. We don't know exactly what drove this increase, what specific advantages it conferred that made it worth the enormous metabolic cost of maintaining a large brain, which consumes about 20% of the body's energy, despite being only about 2% of its mass. Perhaps it was related to increasingly complex social groups, to the need to track relationships and alliances among many individuals. Perhaps it was related to tool use, to the cognitive demands of planning and manufacturing. Perhaps it was related to language, to the ability to share information and coordinate behavior in unprecedented ways. Whatever the specific causes, the result was a brain capable of abstract thought, of imagining possibilities that don't exist, of planning for the future and learning from the past in ways that go far beyond what any other animal can do. And yet, despite this cognitive sophistication, despite our technology and our culture, we remain fundamentally animals, fundamentally shaped by the same evolutionary processes that shape all life. We still respond to ancient cues, still feel fear and attraction and hunger through neural circuits that evolved millions of years ago, still carry in our bodies the marks of our evolutionary history. Your sense of taste, for instance, with its strong attraction to sweet and fatty foods, made perfect sense in an environment where such foods were rare and valuable, where calories were often scarce and had to be obtained wherever possible. The same is true of our tendency to store fat easily, to hold on to energy reserves against future shortage. These were adaptive traits for most of human evolutionary history, and they remain with us now, even though for many people the environment has changed dramatically, even though food is abundant and the real challenge is often limiting intake rather than securing enough calories to survive. This mismatch between our evolved psychology and physiology and our modern environment shows up in countless ways, reminding us that evolution doesn't plan ahead, doesn't anticipate future conditions, but only responds to the immediate pressures of survival and reproduction. We are adapted for a world that largely no longer exists, a world of small social groups and physical labor and constant movement, and we carry that adaptation with us into radically different circumstances. Let your eyes close if they aren't already. Let yourself sink deeper into rest, into the quiet darkness behind your eyelids. Evolution has shaped even this, your circadian rhythm, your tendency to sleep when it's dark and wake when it's light, a cycle that's found in nearly all organisms, from bacteria to plants to animals. This daily rhythm is controlled by genes, by proteins that accumulate and degrade in regular cycles, creating an internal clock that keeps approximate time even in the absence of external cues. You inherited this clock from ancestors so distant that they barely resembled anything we would recognize as animal, and it continues to tick away in every cell of your body, coordinating metabolism and hormone release and countless other processes with the rotation of the earth. Sleep itself is ancient, though we don't fully understand why it evolved, why so many organisms spend a significant portion of their lives in a state of reduced consciousness, vulnerable to predators, unable to feed or mate or defend territory. The fact that sleep is so universal, so deeply conserved across the animal kingdom, suggests that it must serve some essential function, some process so important that it's worth the costs and risks. Perhaps it's related to memory consolidation, to the need to process and integrate the day's experiences. Perhaps it's related to cellular maintenance, to clearing away metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. Perhaps it serves multiple functions, different purposes in different organisms. Whatever the reason, sleep is part of your evolutionary inheritance, part of the rhythm of being alive, and you can let yourself surrender to it now. Let yourself drift in that direction without resistance, without trying to control or direct the process. Sleep will come when it comes, and in the meantime, there's just this quiet exploration of ideas, this gentle movement through time and possibility. In many ways, evolution is a story about cooperation as much as it is about competition. Yes, there is conflict, predation, struggle for limited resources, but there is also symbiosis, mutualism, partnerships that benefit all involved. The bacteria in your gut, billions of them representing hundreds of species, help you digest food, synthesize vitamins, regulate your immune system. You provide them with a stable environment and a steady supply of nutrients. This relationship is so ancient, so fundamental, that neither you nor the bacteria could easily survive without it. You are not an individual but an ecosystem, a collection of organisms living together in what is usually a harmonious balance. The same kind of cooperation shows up at larger scales as well. Flowering plants and the insects that pollinate them have shaped each other's evolution for over 100 million years. Flowers becoming more colorful and fragrant, and rewarding to attract pollinators, insects developing longer tongues and better color vision and behavior patterns that favor visiting flowers of the same species, ensuring efficient pollination. Neither flowers nor many of their insect pollinators would exist in their current forms without this long partnership, this mutual dependence that has become woven into the structure of terrestrial ecosystems. Even predation, which seems like pure competition, creates relationships that shape both predator and prey. Predators keep prey populations in check, preventing overgrazing or overbrowsing that could damage the environment. Prey evolve better defenses, better camouflage, better warning systems, and predators evolve better hunting strategies, better senses, better speed, or stealth. The result is often a kind of dynamic balance, an arms race that never ends but never completely destabilizes, populations fluctuating around equilibrium points that shift with environmental conditions. Let yourself breathe naturally, easily, without trying to control the rhythm. Just noticing the way air moves in and out, the way your body knows how to do this without conscious thought, the way your brainstem monitors carbon dioxide levels and adjusts your breathing rate automatically. A control system that evolved hundreds of millions of years ago and continues to function now, keeping you alive moment by moment while your conscious mind is occupied with other things or with nothing at all. One of the most remarkable things about evolution is the way it can produce complexity from simplicity, the way elaborate structures and behaviors can emerge from the gradual accumulation of small changes, none of which required foresight or planning. Consider the eye, often pointed to as an example of something too complex to have evolved gradually, too perfect in its design to have arisen through random mutation and natural selection. And yet, when we look across the diversity of life, we see every possible intermediate stage, from simple patches of light-sensitive cells that can only distinguish light from dark, to cup-shaped eyes that can detect the direction of light, to pinhole eyes that can form crude images, to lens-based eyes that can focus and adjust for distance. Each of these stages works, provides some advantage over having no light detection at all, and each can be improved incrementally, making the transition from one form to another not a leap, but a gradual climb up a gentle slope of increasing visual acuity. The fact that eyes have evolved independently at least 40 different times in different lineages, using different cellular mechanisms but often arriving at similar solutions, shows that there's nothing miraculous about vision, nothing that requires special explanation beyond the normal processes of variation and selection working over sufficient time. The same gradual accumulation of complexity explains every other elaborate adaptation, from the echolocation of bats and dolphins to the electric sensing of sharks and platypuses to the magnetic navigation of migrating birds. Each of these abilities seems remarkable, seems almost impossible, until you realize that you don't need the full sophisticated version to gain some advantage, that even a crude, limited version of the ability would be better than nothing, and that once any ability exists in rudimentary form, Natural selection can refine it, can elaborate it, can shape it over countless generations into something precise and powerful. Evolution doesn't just shape bodies, doesn't just work on physical structures, it also shapes behavior, instincts, the things organisms do without learning, without thinking. A spider spinning a web is following a program written in its genes, refined over millions of years of spiders that built better or worse webs, that caught more or fewer flies, that left more or fewer offspring. The spider has no understanding of what it's doing, no blueprint in its mind, just a set of instructions encoded in DNA that unfold during development and produce. When triggered by the right cues, the complex sequence of movements that results in a web. But behavior is not entirely hardwired, not entirely determined by genes. Most organisms can learn, can modify their behavior based on experience, and this learning ability is itself a product of evolution, shaped by selection to be more or less elaborate, more or less flexible, depending on the ecological niche the organism occupies. Animals that live in stable, predictable environments can often get by with mostly instinctive behavior, with fixed responses to specific stimuli. Animals that live in variable, unpredictable environments benefit from being able to adjust, to remember what worked and what didn't, to change their strategies based on circumstances. Humans take this learning ability to an extreme, being born with relatively few fixed instincts and enormous capacity to learn, to acquire culture, to be shaped by experience and social interaction. This flexibility is part of what makes humans so successful, so able to inhabit nearly every terrestrial environment on Earth, from deserts to rainforests to Arctic tundra. We don't adapt through genetic evolution, which is slow, but through cultural evolution, which is fast, learning from each other, accumulating knowledge across generations, developing technologies that allow us to modify our environment rather than waiting for our bodies to adapt to it. And yet, this cultural evolution is built on top of biological evolution, depends on cognitive abilities and social instincts that themselves evolved over millions of years. Our capacity for language, for teaching and learning, for cooperation with non-relatives, for empathy and imagination, all of these are made possible by specific features of our brains, specific neural circuits and neurotransmitter systems that arose through the same processes of variation and selection that shape all life. Let your thoughts drift now, let them become less focused, less directed, like clouds moving across a summer sky, forming and dissolving without effort or intention. You don't need to follow these ideas closely, don't need to remember them or understand them completely. They're just here to occupy the surface of your mind gently, while the deeper processes of sleep begin to take over, while your body continues its nightly work of repair and consolidation. In the history of life on Earth, there have been 5 major mass extinctions, events where a large percentage of all species disappeared in a relatively short period of geological time. These extinctions were caused by various catastrophes, asteroid impacts, massive volcanic eruptions, sudden climate changes, shifts in ocean chemistry. Each one reshaped the biosphere, eliminated dominant groups, and opened up ecological space for others to expand. And yet, each time, life recovered, diversity rebounded, new forms arose to fill the empty niches. The most severe of these extinctions, the one at the end of the Permian period about 250 million years ago, eliminated perhaps 90% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. The world that emerged from this catastrophe was fundamentally different from the one that preceded it, with different dominant groups, different ecological structures. And yet, the recovery took only a few million years, a blink in geological time, though it would have seemed endless to any organism living through it, generation after generation struggling in a diminished world. These mass extinctions remind us that evolution is not a steady, progressive march toward greater complexity or diversity. It's full of contingency, accidents, catastrophic setbacks. The history of life is not smooth but punctuated, long periods of relative stability, interrupted by brief intervals of rapid change. And in some ways, we're living through one of those intervals now, a period of rapid extinction driven not by asteroids or volcanoes, but by the activities of a single species, humans, transforming habitats, altering the climate, moving species around the globe, creating pressures that many organisms cannot adapt to quickly enough. But even this is not unprecedented in the history of life. The Great Oxygenation Event, roughly 2.5 billion years ago, when photosynthetic bacteria began producing oxygen as a waste product, was catastrophic for most life at the time, oxygen being toxic to the anaerobic organisms that then dominated the planet. And yet, some organisms found ways to tolerate oxygen, to use it, to harness its reactive chemistry for more efficient energy production. Those organisms became the ancestors of all oxygen-breathing life, all the plants and animals and fungi that depend on this once poisonous gas for survival. Evolution works with what it has, responds to conditions as they are, not as they might ideally be. It's a tinkerer, not an engineer, modifying existing structures for new purposes, building on previous solutions rather than starting fresh. This is why organisms are full of imperfections, jury-rigged solutions that work well enough but could clearly be better designed if you were starting from scratch. The recurrent laryngeal nerve in mammals, for instance, which runs from the brain down into the chest, loops around the aorta, and comes back up to the larynx, a detour that makes sense only in light of evolutionary history, in light of the way fish gill arches were gradually modified during the transition to terrestrial life. In a giraffe, this nerve travels all the way down the neck, around the heart, and back up again, a journey of 15 feet to reach a destination that's just a few inches from where it started. No engineer would design it that way, but evolution doesn't design from the top down. It modifies what already exists, and sometimes those modifications result in inefficiencies, in structures that work but could clearly work better. And yet, these imperfections are themselves evidence of evolution, proof that organisms are shaped by their history, by the constraints and accidents of deep time. Your own body is full of such quirks, vestigial structures and suboptimal designs that make sense only as products of evolutionary history. The appendix, once thought to be completely useless, may play some role in gut immunity, but it's clearly a reduced version of the cecum found in other mammals, a fermentation chamber for digesting plant material that humans no longer need because our diet changed. Wisdom teeth, which often don't fit properly in modern jaws, are remnants of a time when human ancestors had larger jaws and ate coarser food that wore down teeth throughout life. The blind spot in your eye, where the optic nerve passes through the retina, exists because the vertebrate eye evolved with the photoreceptors facing away from the light, the wiring in front of the sensor, a design that works but is clearly not optimal. These imperfections don't diminish you. They connect you to your past, to the long lineage of organisms that came before, each solving the problems of their particular moment, each making the trade-offs necessary for survival, each passing on what worked well enough to the next generation. You are the current iteration of a process that has been going on for billions of years, a process that will continue long after you're gone, in your descendants if you have them, in the species that share your world, in forms of life we can barely imagine. Let yourself settle even more deeply now. Let your body become heavy, supported completely by whatever you're lying on. No need to hold yourself up or keep yourself alert. Evolution has given you this ability to sleep, to let go of consciousness for hours at a time, trusting that the world will still be there when you wake, that your body knows how to keep breathing, how to keep your heart beating, how to maintain all the intricate processes that keep you alive without any conscious oversight. There's a kind of trust built into being alive, a trust that the mechanisms evolution has shaped will continue to function, that the solutions arrived at through millions of years of trial and error are robust enough to handle the challenges of existence, and most of the time, that trust is warranted. Most of the time, bodies work remarkably well, healing themselves when injured, fighting off infections, maintaining temperature and blood pressure and glucose levels within narrow ranges despite wide variations in external conditions. The immune system, in particular, is a marvel of evolutionary engineering, a complex network of cells and molecules that can recognize and respond to an almost unlimited variety of pathogens, including ones that have never been encountered before. This ability to generate diversity, to create billions of different antibodies and T-cell receptors through random recombination of gene segments, is itself an evolutionary strategy, a way of preparing for unpredictable threats, of being ready for whatever comes. Your immune system is constantly learning, constantly adapting, carrying on a kind of rapid evolution within your own body, selection happening not over generations but over days or weeks, as immune cells that recognize a particular pathogen multiply and those that don't undergo programmed cell death. This process, this ability to adapt quickly to new challenges, is built on top of slower evolutionary processes, the result of millions of years of vertebrates facing infectious diseases, of populations being decimated by plagues, of the most resistant individuals surviving to reproduce. The genes that control your immune system are among the most variable in the human genome, subject to intense selection pressure, constantly being tested against new pathogens, new challenges. And yet, even this sophisticated system has its limits, can be overwhelmed, can make mistakes, attacking the body's own tissues, or failing to recognize dangerous invaders. Evolution optimizes for reproductive success, not for health or longevity or happiness. This is important to remember, important to understand. Traits that become common in a population are those that increase the number of offspring an individual leaves, not necessarily those that make life easier or more pleasant. If a trait improves reproductive success at the cost of health later in life, after reproduction is complete, selection will favor that trait because the later costs don't matter from an evolutionary perspective. This is why many organisms, including humans, experience deterioration with age, why bodies that worked well for decades begin to break down, why susceptibility to disease and disability increases in later life. From evolution's perspective, once reproduction is complete, once offspring are raised to independence, the individual has served its purpose. There's no selection pressure to maintain health beyond that point, no advantage to longevity for its own sake. This is a hard truth, perhaps an uncomfortable reality, but it's not cruel or unkind, just the inevitable outcome of a process that has no foresight, no values, no concern for individuals. Evolution doesn't care about you, doesn't care about anyone, because it's not a conscious process, not an entity with intentions. It's just a pattern, a statistical tendency for certain traits to become more common over time if they correlate with reproductive success. And yet, understanding this, understanding the way evolution shapes life, can be strangely comforting, can help put human experience in perspective. The difficulties and challenges you face, the ways your body and mind sometimes struggle, these are not personal failures, but the inevitable result of being shaped by a process that didn't have your individual well-being as its goal. You are, in a sense, doing the best you can with equipment that was designed for a different world, different challenges, different circumstances. Let your breathing slow even further. Let your awareness of your body become dim and distant, just a faint sensation of being, of existing, without needing to pay close attention to any particular part or process. Evolution has given you this ability to let go, to trust in the autonomic processes that continue without conscious direction, to rest deeply while the essential functions of life carry on. One of the most profound insights from evolutionary biology is the unity of life, the way all living things are connected through descent from common ancestors. Every organism alive today, from bacteria to redwood trees to blue whales, is related to every other organism, sharing ancestry that goes back billions of years. This means that when you look at other living things, you're looking at distant cousins, family members separated by vast numbers of generations, but still part of the same tree of life. The evidence for this common ancestry is overwhelming, found in the shared genetic code, the way all life uses the same basic molecular machinery to store and transmit information, to build proteins, to regulate metabolism. There's no reason this had to be the case, no logical necessity that all life use DNA and RNA and the same set of amino acids and the same genetic code. The fact that all life does use these things with only minor variations is powerful evidence that all life descends from a single origin, a single ancestor that lived billions of years ago and left descendants that diverged and diversified but never completely lost the fundamental similarities that mark them as family. You carry within you genes that are found in yeast, in fruit flies, in mice, genes that perform such essential functions that they've been conserved across hundreds of millions of years of evolution. When scientists study human biology, they often do so by studying other organisms, by manipulating genes in mice or flies or worms and seeing what happens, trusting that the basic mechanisms will be similar enough to provide insight into human function. This works because of our shared evolutionary heritage, because the same genes often perform similar roles in organisms separated by vast stretches of evolutionary time. There's a beautiful economy to evolution, a tendency to reuse solutions, to modify existing genes for new purposes rather than inventing completely new ones. The genes that control limb development in vertebrates, for instance, also control the development of fins in fish, even though limbs and fins look quite different and serve different functions. The same basic developmental program is activated, but the details of how it unfolds, how long it runs, what other genes it interacts with, differ in ways that produce different outcomes. This means that evolution is not starting from scratch with each new adaptation, but building on a deep toolkit of genes and developmental programs that can be mixed and matched, turned on and off, sped up, or slow down to produce variation. Let your mind drift further now. Let thoughts become fragmentary, disconnected, like the last moments before dreams begin. That transitional state where logic loosens, where ideas flow without coherence or purpose. There's no need to hold on to anything here, no need to make sense of what you're hearing. It's all just sounds, just patterns of meaning that can wash over you without requiring response or engagement. In evolutionary terms, humans are very young, our species having existed for only a few 100,000 years, a tiny fraction of the history of life. And yet, in that short time, we've spread across the planet, modified environments on a global scale, developed technologies that allow us to peer into the furthest reaches of the universe and the smallest components of matter. This rapid cultural evolution, this ability to accumulate knowledge and technology across generations, is unprecedented in the history of life, unique to humans as far as we know. But it's important to remember that this cultural sophistication doesn't make us separate from nature, doesn't exempt us from evolutionary principles. We are still biological organisms, still shaped by the same processes that shape all life. Our bodies still respond to ancient cues, still carry the marks of our evolutionary past. We still need food and water and sleep, still reproduce sexually, still age and die. All the cultural and technological achievements of humanity are built on top of this biological foundation, made possible by brains and bodies that evolved over millions of years of primate and mammalian and vertebrate evolution. The relationship between our biological evolution and our cultural evolution is complex, full of feedback loops and emergent effects. Culture has shaped our biology, creating selection pressures that favored certain traits over others. The ability to digest milk as adults, for instance, evolved independently in several human populations that kept dairy animals, a genetic change that spread rapidly once it appeared because it provided significant nutritional advantage in those cultural contexts. Similarly, genes affecting brain development and language ability have likely been under selection in humans, shaped by the importance of social intelligence and communication in human societies. At the same time, our biology shapes our culture, constraining and enabling what's possible. The fact that humans have long childhoods, that we're born helpless and require years of care and teaching, creates the conditions for cultural transmission, for the passing on of knowledge and skills from one generation to the next. The fact that we're social animals, that we evolve to live in groups and cooperate with others, makes possible the division of labor and the accumulation of specialized knowledge that characterizes complex societies. You can let yourself stop following these ideas now, can let them fade into the background as your awareness narrows, as the need for wakefulness diminishes. Your brain is already beginning the transition into sleep, neurons firing in different patterns, consciousness fragmenting and reconstructing in ways that will eventually become dreams or dissolving into the deeper, quieter stages of sleep, where even dreams fade away. Evolution has no endpoint, no final form it's working toward. The organisms alive today will continue to change, will continue to adapt to changing conditions, will give rise to descendants different enough to be considered new species. In 1,000,000 years, if humans or our descendants still exist, they will likely be significantly different from us, changed by whatever selection pressures operate in that distant future. In 10 million years, the differences could be dramatic, as different as we are from our own ancestors 10 million years in the past. And yet, some things will likely remain, some deep features that are so fundamental, so built into the basic structure of life, that they persist across vast spans of time. The genetic code will probably still be the same. The basic mechanisms of cell division and protein synthesis and metabolism will probably still be recognizable, even if the details, the specific genes and regulatory networks, have changed beyond recognition. This deep conservation of fundamental processes is one of the most striking features of life, the way certain solutions, once found, persist for billions of years, forming a stable foundation on which endless variation is built. There's a lesson in this, perhaps, about the relationship between stability and change, about the way both are necessary, about the way evolution creates diversity through variation, but also maintains continuity through conservation. Life is simultaneously ancient and new, simultaneously deeply conserved and constantly changing. And this paradox is part of what makes it so endlessly fascinating, so full of patterns that repeat and patterns that never quite repeat in exactly the same way. Your breathing has probably become very slow and regular by now. Your heartbeat steady and unhurried, your body temperature dropping slightly as it does during sleep, metabolism slowing as energy is diverted from maintaining alertness to the processes of cellular repair and maintenance that happen primarily during rest. All of these are evolutionary adaptations, responses shaped by millions of years of organisms that needed to balance activity and rest, that needed to apportion energy between different functions, that survived and reproduced because they managed these trade-offs effectively. Even consciousness itself, the thing that's now fading as you drift towards sleep, is a product of evolution, an adaptation that arose because it provided some advantage, some ability to model the world, to plan and predict, to imagine possibilities that don't yet exist. We don't fully understand consciousness, don't know exactly how subjective experience arises from the firing of neurons, but we know it's not unique to humans, that other animals have their own forms of awareness, their own inner lives, different from ours, but no less real. The question of animal consciousness is one of the most profound to emerge from evolutionary thinking. The realization that if we evolved from other animals, if there's no sharp dividing line between us and them, then whatever capacities we have, including consciousness, must exist in some form in other species as well. The exact nature and extent of consciousness in other animals remains uncertain, but the evidence suggests that many mammals, at least, have rich inner lives, experience emotions and sensations, have preferences and memories and anticipations. This realization should change how we think about our place in nature, should temper the idea that humans are fundamentally different from or superior to other forms of life. We are one branch on the tree of life, one outcome of the evolutionary process, remarkable in some ways but not separate from or above the rest of the living world. We are part of nature, not apart from it, shaped by the same processes, subject to the same constraints, connected to every other living thing through the deep history of descent with modification. Let yourself release any remaining tension, any last holding on to wakefulness, any sense that you need to be alert or attentive. You don't need to hear these words, don't need to understand them or remember them. They're just here, just sounds flowing past, like water in a stream, like wind in trees, like any other natural pattern that exists without requiring notice or comprehension. In the grand sweep of evolutionary time, individual lives are brief, almost insignificant single moments in a process that spans billions of years. And yet, each individual life matters in its own moment. Each organism experiences its existence fully, completely, without reference to the larger patterns of which it's a part. An insect living for a single day lives a complete life in that day, experiences all the urgency and importance and meaning that existence can hold. Its brevity doesn't diminish its reality, doesn't make it any less significant to the insect itself. The same is true for us, for all organisms. Our lives are brief in evolutionary terms, infinitesimal in cosmic terms, and yet they're complete, they're whole. They contain all the experience and meaning and significance that existence can offer. Evolution doesn't diminish the value of individual lives, doesn't reduce us to mere vehicles for genes. It simply provides context, a way of understanding how we came to be, why we are the way we are, how we fit into the larger pattern of life on Earth. There's a certain peace that can come from this evolutionary perspective, from understanding that you are part of a process much larger and older than yourself, that the traits and tendencies and difficulties you experience are not unique to you but shared, to varying degrees, with countless other organisms, with all of your ancestors stretching back through time. You are not alone, not separate, but connected through deep history to every living thing. Your genes carry information about that history, sequences that have been passed down through countless generations, modified gradually through mutation and recombination, but maintaining enough similarity that we can trace relationships, can build family trees that show how different species are related to each other. These trees, constructed from both anatomical features and genetic sequences, tell a story of divergence and diversification, of lineages splitting and going their separate ways, of isolated populations accumulating different changes until they become distinct species. But the trees also show convergence, the way organisms that aren't closely related sometimes evolve similar features because they face similar challenges, occupy similar ecological niches. The streamlined bodies of fish and dolphins and ichthyosaurs, the wings of birds and bats and pterosaurs, the long necks of sauropod dinosaurs and giraffes, all represent separate evolutionary events, separate solutions to similar problems, showing that evolution is not entirely random, but channeled by the constraints of physics and chemistry, by the limited number of ways to solve certain problems efficiently. Let your awareness become diffuse now, spread out and unfocused, barely holding together, on the edge of dissolving entirely into sleep. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, nothing that requires your attention or effort. Everything that needs to happen will happen without you, your body breathing, your heart beating, your cells going about their work, all the evolutionary machinery that keeps you alive functioning automatically, effortlessly, as it has for millions of years in your ancestors, and will continue for as long as you live. The history of life is full of strange and wonderful forms that no longer exist. Organisms that evolved and thrived for millions of years and then disappeared, leaving only fossils as evidence of their existence. Trilobites, which dominated the oceans for almost 300 million years, came in thousands of species with elaborate spines and compound eyes and diverse body plans. Ammonites, swimming predators related to modern squid and octopus, but with coiled external shells, filled the oceans for even longer. These groups were successful beyond measure, persisting for spans of time that make human history look like nothing, and yet they're gone now, ended by mass extinctions or gradual decline as conditions changed and new competitors arose. Their disappearance doesn't negate their existence, doesn't make their long history meaningless. They lived, they adapted, they evolved, they filled their particular moment in the history of life. The fact that they're extinct now is simply part of the rhythm of evolution, the way species arise and disappear, the way life constantly turns over, constantly creates new forms while older ones fade away. Extinction is not failure but simply ending, the natural conclusion of every lineage that doesn't leave descendants that evolve into something different enough to be considered a new species. Most species end in extinction, most lineages peter out, most experiments in form and function don't persist. This is not sad or tragic, but simply the nature of evolution, the way it works through constant variation and testing, most variations proving inadequate, disappearing from the gene pool, leaving only the minority that work well enough to persist and spread. Evolution is profligate, wasteful by any engineering standard, trying countless variations for every one that succeeds. But it's also patient, relentless, never stopping, never giving up, always exploring new possibilities through the simple mechanism of reproduction with variation and differential survival. You are one of the successes, one of the lineages that has persisted, your ancestors forming an unbroken chain stretching back to the origin of life. Every single one of them surviving long enough to reproduce, every single one passing on genetic information that eventually, through countless modifications and recombinations, became you. This is true of every living thing. Every organism alive today represents a success story, an unbroken lineage, a chain that has never once been broken over billions of years. Let yourself appreciate that for a moment, the improbability of your existence, the vast number of ancestors who had to survive long enough to reproduce, the countless contingencies and accidents that had to go a particular way for you to be here. And then let that thought dissolve. Let it drift away like everything else, like all thoughts, all awareness, all the content of consciousness, as it gradually fades into the quiet darkness of deep sleep. Evolution has no purpose, no goal, no direction, except that imposed by the local environment, the immediate pressures of survival and reproduction. And yet it has produced, through blind variation and selection, through the accumulation of countless small changes over immense spans of time, beauty and complexity and diversity beyond anything that could be deliberately designed. The natural world in all its forms is the outcome of this process, shaped by evolution into patterns that often seem almost too perfect, too well adapted, too finely tuned to be the result of random variation. But that's the power of selection, the way it can take random changes and filter them, keeping those that work even slightly better and discarding those that don't, accumulating improvements gradually until something complex and functional emerges. It's like sculpting by removing material. The way a sculptor chips away everything that isn't the statue, except in evolution the material being removed is variation, and the statue that emerges is whatever works, whatever survives, whatever reproduces. The process is ongoing, happening now, all around you and within you. Your cells are mutating, accumulating small, random changes in their DNA every time they divide. Most of these mutations are neutral, have no effect on function. Some are harmful, causing problems that usually result in the death of the cell. A very few are beneficial in some context, might slightly improve some function. Over your lifetime, these mutations accumulate, and if any occur in the cells that will become eggs or sperm, they can be passed on to offspring, becoming part of the genetic variation in the next generation that selection acts upon. This is evolution happening in real time, though the changes in any one generation are tiny, imperceptible, only becoming significant when accumulated over many generations. You are slightly different genetically from your parents, and your children, if you have them, will be slightly different from you, and over many generations, over thousands or millions of years, these small differences add up to substantial change, to the origin of new species, new forms, new ways of being alive. Let yourself sink deeper now. Let consciousness fragment and dissolve. Let the boundary between waking and sleeping blur and fade. There's no need to maintain awareness. No need to follow these words any longer. They're just here, just sounds in the background, like rain on a roof or waves on a shore, patterns that require no attention, no response, no engagement. In the longest view, in the perspective of deep time, everything is temporary, everything is transient, everything arises and exists for a while and then fades away. Species, ecosystems, continents, oceans, mountains, rivers, all of these are just moments in a much longer story. Appearing and disappearing like waves on the ocean, each one unique, each one temporary, each one part of a larger pattern that continues regardless of any particular instance. You are part of this pattern, arising in this particular moment, this particular configuration of genes and environment and history, existing for a brief time before returning to the elements, before the atoms that make up your body disperse and become part of other things, other organisms, other patterns. This is not an ending but a transformation, a return to the general pool of matter and energy that cycles through the biosphere, that has cycled for billions of years, that will continue to cycle long after humans are gone. Evolution teaches us about connection, about the way everything is related, about the deep unity underlying the diversity of life. It teaches us about change, about the way nothing stays the same, about the constant flux and transformation that characterizes existence. It teaches us about time, about the vast scales on which life operates, about the patience required to build complexity from simplicity. And it teaches us about contingency, about the way things could have been different, about the role of accident and chance in shaping what is. These are quiet lessons, gentle realizations that don't demand anything from you, don't require action or decision. They're just ways of seeing, ways of understanding your place in the larger pattern of existence. You can carry them with you as you drift into sleep. Let them settle into the background of your awareness, coloring your dreams perhaps, or simply dissolving into the quiet darkness of deep rest. Your breathing is very slow now, barely perceptible. Your heartbeat steady and distant, your body completely relaxed and still, surrendering to gravity, to the support beneath you, to the natural rhythms of rest and restoration. Evolution has shaped this too, this ability to let go, to trust in the unconscious processes that continue while awareness fades, to rest deeply and completely, allowing the body to do its necessary work of repair and consolidation and preparation for another day. Sleep comes when it comes, unbidden and unforced, a natural transition from one state to another, from waking consciousness to the different modes of being that characterize sleep, from light sleep to deep sleep, to dreaming and back again in cycles that repeat through the night. You don't control this process, don't direct it. Just allow it to unfold in its own way, in its own time, trusting that your brain and body know what to do, that millions of years of evolution have prepared you for this, have given you the ability to rest, to recover, to begin again. And so we end where we began, in quiet, in stillness, in the gentle space between waking and sleeping, between knowing and unknowing, between the specific and the universal. Evolution continues, will always continue, in you and through you and beyond you, an endless process of becoming, of transformation, of life finding its way forward moment by moment, generation by generation, into futures we cannot imagine. But that's not your concern now. Now there's only this moment, this breath, this quiet fading of awareness into rest, into sleep, into the deep peace that waits for you in the darkness, patient and timeless and welcoming. Always there, always available, whenever you're ready to let go and drift away into the gentle nowhere of sleep.